Hello, welcome to the Grow Your Wealthy Mindset podcast, where it is all about helping amazing physicians just like you create a wealthy life free from burnout and with the financial security to practice medicine on your own terms. I'm your host, Dr. Elisa Chiang. Hello, and thank you for being a listener of the Grow Your Wealthy Mindset podcast. Today's episode is going to be a little different. Yes, I'm going to talk about 403Bs, as the title of this episode is a closer look at 403Bs. But I'm also going to tell you a personal story that I recently experienced. My hope is that it's a story that you can relate to and one that will encourage you to continue increasing your financial literacy and working towards financial freedom when times get rough. Getting your finances and investments set up can end up being a whole lot more work than you feel like doing. I get it. I actually enjoy managing my finances. I spend more time than necessary reviewing my finances. I spend time reading about investing, even as part of creating this podcast. I find it work, but enjoyable work. Because of the investing I do with real estate syndications, as well as private equity, I do get K-1s. This means that for the last few years, I've had to file an extension for my taxes. Recently, I was talking to my accountant who questioned why my husband, a public school teacher, was only contributing 14% of his income towards retirement through his school system. We live in the state of Ohio, and he contributes to STRS, the State Teachers Retirement System of Ohio. His school matches his contribution, so it's really like he's contributing 28% of his income towards his retirement. I hadn't really thought about if there were avenues where he could contribute more. Being part of STRS actually excludes him from having to contribute to Social Security, which does mean that there will be no Social Security benefit for him. While my husband sends me lots of documents regarding open enrollment each year, there never seem to have been any other documents regarding retirement accounts other than with STRS. This conversation with my accountant got me wondering if there was something more. I asked my husband to email someone at HR to inquire about other retirement accounts. Apparently, he does have the ability to open both a 403B plan and or a 457 plan. He received a one-page document that listed different providers from the person in Human Resources and forwarded that to me. I looked at the one-page document. The 457 plan looked fairly straightforward. There were 3 providers, one which I personally used when I worked at the county hospital, so I was very familiar with them. We were able to easily open an account online, submit paperwork for payroll deductions and contributions to the 457 plan, and then choose which mutual funds to invest in. The whole process took probably under an hour. That's when things go well. The 403B account looked much less straightforward. There were many names, addresses, and phone numbers listed, with some email addresses listed. There were no websites. While I recognized the name Voya and AIG Retirement Services, there were a lot of other names I did not recognize. TIAA CREF was not listed, which I had previous experience with prior 403Bs. So the task of opening the 403B got pushed out until I had more time to contact the names on the list. When that day finally came, I started calling phone numbers and got a lot of voicemail. Only one person actually answered the phone, but she said that she couldn't help me and would contact the person at the company who then could help me, but he probably would not be able to reach out until later in the week. I sent an email to every email that was listed and had a little better luck with the email, with 3 of the 4 people replying to the email within 24 hours. One person I left a voicemail did call me back the same day. She let me know that the list was outdated, as she was listed as being part of MetLife, a company that she had left 8 years ago. I'm assuming the number listed was actually her cell phone number, which is how I was still able to reach her in the first place. So after making these phone calls, what I gathered is that the list of people here were all financial advisors, and the name of companies were mostly financial advising firms. One person who answered the email let me know that he is a full-service financial advisor and could help us set up and manage the 403B, but prefers to do complete financial management for the whole household. I let him know that I was not interested in that kind of service. However, we did have a productive phone call where he did tell me that I could possibly set up a 403B plan through the Aspire platform, and he even emailed me the application as well as a list of available investments. This list of available investments was 95 pages long. A look at the first page of the list showed that the funds all had a 12B-1 fee, which is an advertising fee for mutual funds. These mutual funds also had expense ratios averaging about 1.5%, with a range of 1.23 to 1.90 for the 21 funds listed on the first page. And that was the first of 95 pages. I scanned the entire list, and the lowest expense ratio was 0.62, which included 0.25% 12B-1 fee. I did find a Fidelity fund. There was a Fidelity Total Bond Fund A and M, FEPAX, and FEPTX. The difference between these two funds is the share class. One has share class A, while the other has share class M. They both have a 0.75% net expense ratio, including a 0.25% 12B-1 fee. They also appear to have an initial 4% sales fee or load fee. And then my thought went to, this is crazy. Why would a school system want their teachers to get ripped off? The next thing I did was, okay, let's find out some more. Let's do a little research. I turned to Google and did a search on, quote, Aspire 403B reviews, end quote. There wasn't a lot that came up. I read a post on Reddit that stated Aspire is a good vendor with a massive menu of investments that can be overwhelming. That did seem to fit the picture, though again, it didn't seem like any of these investments were all that great. One of the other search results came up was on the website 403bwise.org, and it was dated less than a year ago. They gave a review of Aspire and said that Aspire is currently an approved 403b vendor in over 6,000 school districts across the United States. It appears that it actually is a good company, but that a lot of people haven't heard of it because they don't spend money on marketing. Well, that's a plus. There are different classes of funds available, some with loads, but there are no load funds available. The blog article did note that there are some employer plans with Aspire as a vendor that require 403b participants to use a financial advisor. Presumably, the employer may also be able to limit what funds are actually available out of the many funds Aspire offers. According to the article, it seems like Vanguard funds like FTSAX should be available, though I didn't see on the list I was provided. That being said, this list was provided by a financial advisor who may be the one who's actually getting the load fee. It's very possible that by opening an Aspire account without a financial advisor, that I would actually be able to see no load fees and funds from places like Vanguard, which I did not find on the list given to me by this financial advisor. I then talked to another person who I had emailed, who we then set up a phone call, and he represented Corebridge Financial, which broke off from AIG. I asked about the funds available, and he really tried to sell me on that they carry great funds that are all 4 or 5-star rated by Morningstar and included funds from Vanguard. I asked about index funds specifically and what the kind of expense ratios I could expect in the funds in the account. He answered that the expense ratios range from 0.5 to 1.5% typically. Of course, this seemed rather high, and I said so. He then tried to explain that there was some annuity attached to the fund, that part of the fee is paying a death benefit. If the value of the fund drops below the basis or how much money was actually invested, then payout on death would be the amount invested and not the current value. I was a little confused by this. I'm currently age 45, and so is my husband. So I'm thinking, okay, I get it. Maybe if he were to die in a car accident in the next year or two, or somewhat near future, and there was a big drop in the stock market, that there could be some benefit from that. But the whole point of investing in this retirement account is tax-deferred growth. So I would expect that the value of the retirement account to grow much more than the amount of money that we're actually putting in the retirement account. So then I asked him, well, does that mean that whatever the high value of any asset that's in the account will actually be paid out if the value drops over time? Which, of course, he said no, that was not the case. I didn't think that would be the case because that sounds like it would be a really good product. I tried getting more information, and he agreed that he was probably not explaining it well, but then said that he had another meeting that was scheduled and suggested I just do more research on annuities. I admit I'm not that well versed in annuities, but what I do know about annuities is that I'm not looking to buy one at this time. There are times where it can make sense to buy annuity. One good example is that once you reach age 80 or advanced age, it can be really beneficial at that point to buy an annuity to make sure that should you live much longer than you originally expected, that you will have enough money to last the rest of your lifetime. The older you are, the less an annuity should cost because it only pays out until your death. Buying annuity for someone who is basically completely healthy at age 45 is going to be a very large expense and probably not worthwhile. I share this story to say that I can see that a lot of people would basically give up at this point. I realize it's going to take some more research to determine whether it's worth getting the tax benefits of a 403b and to find out exactly what restrictions and fees would be associated with the account that's possible to get through my husband's employer. I can tell you that I'm not really interested in investing in funds with a 4% front load and a 0.75% expense ratio. I did find 403bwise.org to be a helpful site. Apparently, it was started with the premise that the K through 12 403b is broken, and the site is to help 403bs for teachers. I had previously thought of 403bs as being the nonprofit version of a 401k. And for the most part, I think that is true. However, there do seem to be some differences that are noteworthy. 403bs actually predate 401ks by 2 decades. 403b plans were originally created in 1958 and were extended to public school employees in 1961. 401ks weren't established until 1978. Originally, the 403b was a tax-sheltered annuity, but this is now considered an outdated expression. When 403bs were first created, participants could actually only invest in annuity products. However, since 1974, participants have been able to invest in mutual funds through a 403b-7, a custodial account. Employees of tax-exempt organizations established under Section 501c3 of the IRS are eligible to participate in 403b and 403b-7 plans. This includes physicians, as many hospitals and academic centers are nonprofits established under the 501c3 tax code. In fact, this is why we physicians can qualify for public service loan forgiveness. In order to get public service loan forgiveness, you need to work for a nonprofit that is a 501c3. From what I understand, many organizations, for-profit or nonprofit, will negotiate with a single vendor to provide a retirement vehicle for their employees. By having all employees go through one vendor, it's possible to negotiate lower fees and also streamlines the process for employees. However, it also decreases options for employees. So if you are an employee, you're stuck with whatever your employer chose. If they didn't spend the time and effort, or whoever set up the plan was not financially literate enough to have made a good choice, you may be stuck with a poor plan. This could certainly be the case if you're in a private practice and the founder of the private practice, has a neighbor or friend who's a financial advisor who basically was like, oh, let me set up your plan's retirement account and set up something that, well, maybe was actually not a bad choice for his friend, but maybe not a great choice for all the employees in the practice. Hopefully this isn't the case wherever you work. Some employers will contract with multiple vendors to give more choice to their employees. The downside to this is that it can make things a lot more complicated, especially when it comes to choosing which vendor to go with, which is essentially the situation I've found myself in. I can tell you that there is no way my husband would have bothered figuring any of this out. When an employer contracts with multiple vendors, they're probably also less likely to have negotiated lower fees or spent time looking through the investment options when they have to look through multiple platforms. Imagine there's probably one person who's been given the task to do this, and there's probably no one who's really judging how well they complete this task. If that person is someone who cares about finances and their retirement, maybe they will really spend the time to do a good job. But if this is just one other thing they want to get off their plate, maybe they don't spend quite as much time doing a great job at this. I say this because if you find yourself in a situation, especially if you're in a small private practice where your options aren't great, then you may want to step up and volunteer to actually look into what might be better options. According to 403bwise.org, Fidelity and Vanguard get the highest grade due to their low fees and great investment options with low expense ratios. Aspire with no advisor, Cal STRS, Pension 2, TCG FinPath, and WEA member benefits also get a green light for low administration fees, a reasonable account fee of $60 or less, the ability to create an index-based portfolio for under 20 base points, and no sketchy affiliations. I'm assuming by the name of some of these vendors that they may actually be specific for teachers, like Cal STRS is probably for teachers in California. T. Rowe Price got dinged for the higher cost to create an index-based portfolio of more than 20 basis points, but less than 40 basis points. So they're still a reasonable option. You can go to 403bwise.org/advocacy/rating_system to see how other companies fared in their rating system. I'll put that website in the show notes as well. If you are in a situation working for a hospital with multiple 403b options, then this may be a helpful website to look at. The take-home message is that yes, there are going to be times where getting your finances organized is going to be a bit of a grind. You may end up following some rabbit holes to get more information. You may end up waiting on answers from other people. You may end up feeling like it really isn't worth it. Is this how you really want to be spending your time? I want to encourage you that it is worth figuring out your financial plan and building a path toward financial freedom. There are people who have said physician loan forgiveness isn't worth all the calls and the effort until they get 6 figures of debt eliminated. I don't fault people for complaining and for wanting to give up. This can be a hard process. There were likely times in your medical training where you felt like it wasn't worth all the pain and effort to keep going. As when you're attempting to do anything challenging, it can just help to take a break and then come back to it. And that's what we did a lot during our medical training. We got overwhelmed, and then we had to take a breather, and then we got back to it. And so working on your finances may end up being the same. Remember, financial freedom really isn't about the money. It's about having options. It's about being able to make choices. It's about having autonomy. It's about creating your own security. It's about knowing that you can walk away from a bad situation and still have your home and food on your table and all your basic needs provided for. For me, freedom is my highest value. I very much value my own autonomy. Maybe this isn't your highest value, but I do think many of us physicians do value freedom and our own autonomy. And so I really do encourage you to work towards financial freedom. And remember, there's no shame in asking for help. If you would like my help, please reach out to me. You can set up a Zoom meeting with me at my website, www.growyourwealthymindset.com. Depending on your situation, there may be people around you who can help you. In this 403b example, reach out to someone in your HR department. Talk to other colleagues until you find someone who's gone through the process themselves. Maybe they can step you through it. Know that you're never truly alone on any journey, that there's always people out there who can help you. And then you are also a resourceful person. You can figure this out. Financial literacy and figuring out creating your financial freedom is definitely easier than lots of things we do as physicians. Thank you so much for being a listener of the Grow Your Wealthy Mindset podcast. I hope you enjoy this episode. I hope this episode is at least a little helpful. Just the realization that even someone like myself, who has been reading about finances and managing finances for over 2 decades, can still find themselves falling down rabbit holes, needing more information, and becoming a little frustrated with the process, to be quite honest. But I know that I will figure this out, and I know that you can figure it out too. I'll be back next week with another episode of the Grow Your Wealthy Mindset podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love it if you could share it with your friends and colleagues. And now for the disclaimer. I am not a certified financial planner, accountant, or attorney, and nothing I say should be construed as professional investment, tax, or legal advice. This show is primarily for your education and entertainment. I am a physician, but I'm probably not your physician. So if you need any medical advice, please contact your own physician. Thank you.